Jake Harris, welcome to the podcast.
Good morrow, my friend. How goes it?
Pretty good. How about you, mate? How's everything? How's life? How's the good Lord treating you?
I'm here. We are out here at the farm. At the very beginning of what will be the most legendary road trip of all time.
Yes, sir.
Running around like a chicken with my head cut off, playing maintenance, man. Listening to my angry music and banging the different parts of your vehicle, beefing it up a little bit.
Adding some suspension
To it. Shout out to Marlon for helping, make that happen earlier today, actually.
Marlin the person, not the fish.
Yes, correct.
The man.
Exactly. But yeah, man, I'm here. I'm excited. Excited to be a part of this journey and this adventure. And, pretty stoked to see what transpires over the next 2 months or so. Been enjoying chatting it up with all the different people on the team so far. And I guess, throughout the course of this here conversation, we'll kind of dive into a little bit more about what it is, I'm doing, you're doing, we're doing.
What's happening in the world?
Yeah, what's happening in the world, exactly, because it is a wild time to be alive.
It is, man. Absolute insanity right now. So take me through your background. How did Jake the Caveman Harris come to be sitting on a converted school bus in the middle of nowhere, Maryland, on a farm with 17 college interns?
Yeah, so that's a great question. Wasn't always a caveman, although I carried many of the traits for most of my life. The caveman journey began a few years ago when I began growing out what, is now recognized as like a 40-year-old beard.
Yeah.
Common in many craft breweries around the world. So grew up in Richmond, similarly to you. Kind of a normal childhood. Well, normal to an extent. I, definitely enjoyed my childhood, running around, getting cuts and scrapes on my knees from palling around with my buddies, building tree forts, building bike jumps and stuff throughout the neighborhood, especially on property that wasn't mine. So eventually would end up at Virginia Tech, where I went to study engineering, civil engineering, although there's not much civil about me, most would say.
A little reckless.
Sure. Living my life, man, as every person should. And went there to wrestle as well. And, as for those that don't know, that's kind of how I come to know you. Jordan was through wrestling. Little background on that for the millions of fans out there. Jordan's a few years older than me and wrestled at a local high school near my own. And he would go on to wrestle at Virginia Tech, too, for a stint of time. And then kind of through the grapevine, through some mutual connections and whatnot, he and I, eventually linked up at Virginia Tech. And that's where our relationship was really birthed. I spent, the first season trying to just make the roster. Didn't make it. Partied my butt off for a while. That got me into a little bit of trouble. Not any legal trouble. The cops couldn't catch me. And then opted to go back out for the wrestling team. Sophomore year, made it. Would come through a series of events to quit. And that's all another story in a nutshell. But And then after that, man, that's where I really began to flap my wings and fly like a pigeon. I don't know if I'd want to consider myself a pigeon, especially after reading your book.
Yeah, a little annoying, right?
Yeah, they seem to be frauds.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah, definitely annoying and followos for sure, and that's not me, man. I'm a renegade of the culture.
A little contrarian.
Yeah, definitely. But, so kind of after the wrestling phase of my life, which, wrestling for quite a bit of high school and beginning part of college was the ruler of my life, almost my religion to a point. But then after that, man, that's where I really kind of got freed up.
Right.
And, got to crack my back a little bit. Sorry, I've been.
Should have hired a chiropractor.
Yeah, should have hired a chiropractor, but Dylan will have to work.
Mallory was doing some neck cracks last night too. Might need to get her on it.
Yeah, exactly. But
Get Rebecca to walk on your back.
yeah, or I'll just get a couple people to tackle me. I'm sure something will crack.
Yeah. Something's got to give.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, man, and then kind of in college, that's where I really started. Like most people, they talk about finding themselves. That's where I started finding kind of my passion for doing something different.
Right.
Not kind of following the corporate America white picket fence path, which works for plenty of people. And I
Right.
kind of quickly realized, especially once I started flapping my wings after quitting wrestling and really exploring the world and whatnot, that just wasn't going to do it for me.
So why do you think that is? What about you makes you contrarian?
Yeah, gosh. I would say for the most part, my life hasn't been, filled with crazy tragedies or life-altering events. My parents enabled me to grow up decently enough, and whether I chose to wear my clothes when I was a little kid or not was my undertaking, but they put clothes on my back, food in my belly. And so I don't think it was much of that. I think a lot of it was kind of, being exposed to a number of different things. I would say I've probably maybe experienced more than the average 24-year-old by this point. And, everybody watches movies, for the most part, at least here in the U.S. And,
Right.
They hear about all these different people. And in the modern age, your access to just information is kind of unreal. And so, kind of hearing about people doing things different, and I think we all have dreams as a kid. I think some may argue I'm still a kid, and so I don't think my dreams have necessarily died off yet.
Right.
And I think a lot of people, their dreams change, or, their idea of life changes, and I think mine, if anything, has just gotten a little bit more ridiculous. The sky's the limit, and if that's kind of the, approach that you take, I think a lot of doors open up. Failure for me, I think, is a little bit different. I think that's also one of the things that kind of leads to this contrarian trait, this more like renegade style approach. Failure I don't see as this like life hindering result of
Right.
putting effort forward. I think, a lot of people talk about failure being a learning experience. I definitely, would agree with that. But on top of that, when I look at the, potential for failure, and I'm like, okay, what would failure look like here? A lot of times the result is not really all that bad. It's like, for this book tour, for example,
Right.
if we completely fail, we sell 0 books from this point forward. Okay, like,
Yeah. Whatever.
like,
Keep going.
yeah, we keep going. Exactly. There's a lot of people who I guess, choose the comfort, of the corporate job, the knowledge of I will get a pay raise if I work X number of hours and stuff like that. I'm not super psyched on the corporate ladder to begin with, especially when you're, young and fresh and you're
Yeah.
doing more work than the guy who's been there for 60 years. And they're
Right.
like, brother, I've had more experience than you. Well, yeah. But you don't seem to show it.
Right. You got a supervisor that doesn't know how to open a PDF.
Right,
and
right.
He's making like 150K. You're making 40.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So I don't know. I think it just kind of comes from this like renegade style that I think I've adopted. I don't think I was actually like super contrarian growing up.
Right.
I think it's, as I've gone, through college and, gone on these different adventures and that sort of thing, and then also been exposed to just like more people on planet Earth. That's when I'm kind of like, the world is my oyster. I'm not really
Right.
sure what people mean by that, but for me, I think it means that there's just a world of opportunities out there, and I'm just ready to see some of them grab the bull by the horns.
Yeah.
And cha-cha.
Yeah. And I mean, you worked civil engineering for 8 months, and there's nothing like a 9 to 5, or in your case, like a 6 to 9 that'll
Yeah.
make you never want to do it again.
For sure, man. And, I think civil engineering, I think it's something that I would like to incorporate in some of my, like, dreams or endeavors. I would like to be involved with, like, urban planning to an extent, or, assistance in third world countries with development. and that sort of thing. So on that front, like, it's not a total lost cause. I haven't completely forsaken it. But as far as getting stoked on working for either a general contractor or civil engineering firm for the next 40 years, that I don't think that's in my deck of cards.
Dude, for sure.
I sure hope not.
For sure. And that seems to be like a pretty common theme amongst, I think millennials, Gen Z, they kind of get ripped apart for not wanting to live to the standard of the baby boomers. But it's not necessarily a bad thing that we sort of want to go in a different direction. But what do you think's kind of sparking that? We had the baby boomer generation who basically is taking the 9 to 5 because it provides the comfort and security of raising a family. And now we have a new generation that is not very focused on getting married, not very focused on having a family, and therefore a lot more focused on living life and kind of having these wild, crazy adventures. What do you think kind of created that?
Yeah, man, I definitely agree with kind of that picture you painted of like our current generation. I think there's a couple things that kind of play into it. One, I kind of already mentioned it, is like the access to information. There's so many more different opportunities that you can hear of. You can literally build a business in your room online.
Right.
That wasn't a thing 20 years ago.
Right.
Just in our lifetime, we've seen the rise of the computer, from like that janky desktop to an iPhone.
Right.
Which is remarkable.
Yeah, the power of Houston during the first Apollo launch. Yeah.
Literally, which is insane. But I think like that also opens up the door for people to have their eyes open to the different opportunities. Also, I think, there's a lot of the good old boys per se, which I've been around plenty of them, they're always saying they don't make them like they used to.
Right.
There's not as many of those like factory jobs in the U.S. That people would join up with a union and work for, 30, 40 years.
Right.
And I think, gosh, there's just so many more opportunities. I think there was plenty of opportunities back in the day. I think just knowing about them is the difference.
Right.
Back in the day, you kind of had to like read the newspaper or, word of mouth in your local area. Now you can hop online and have access to 5 jillion different jobs in every corner of the planet.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you're literally in this position where with a click of a couple buttons, you can be learning about how to apply for FBI agent, like firefighter, air parachute jumper up in Alaska, oil man up in Alberta. Like you could be literally doing
anything.
Yeah. And then, it's a matter of just clicking apply online and hopping on a plane, and like that's it. And I think it's actually, people are almost getting anxious, and just because their opportunity cost is so high.
Right.
Like each person has basically 100 lives they can live, and they got to pick one life to choose from.
Right. And I think that's why you see so many people hopping around and doing different things too, is like, gosh, man, we're asking people to choose what they want to do for the next 40 years at age 18.
Yeah.
It's kind of insane, ask me about what I think of college, and it's totally different, now that I've been through it, done that, already like kind of wanting a career change.
Right.
How am I supposed to know at 18? I know over in Europe there, if let's say you want to be an engineer, they start, kind of putting you in classes more geared towards that. But the way that like the American education system is set up, they want to try to expose you to a bunch of different things, and that's why they require all these different electives and stuff like that.
And stuff.
Yeah, exactly. I really like the concept of some of these like smaller 2-year technical schools. They're like, hey, you want to be a welder? Come on, we're going to put you in classes exclusively for welding. You're going to get your certificates, and you're going to be, hooked up with a multitude of job opportunities at the end. But it's just different,
Right. And I think you touched on a good point too of, I think employers complain that the younger generations don't have the same level of loyalty to the company, but the company does not have the same level of loyalty to the people either.
Definitely.
There is no full retirement anymore from privatized companies. Like that's not a thing. Basically, you have to be working for the feds to get that full benefit, and then even that's worse than it used to be. So it's kind of coming from both directions, that there really is nothing to entice someone to stay in a position for 45 years.
Right.
So yeah, we're moving to a world where it's going to become pretty normal for people to work a job for 2 years and then bounce around to something else.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly. And I think one of the last little tidbits I'll add is, with social media and the internet, you get exposed to people who are traveling around the world and they're doing it on, the dime that they make while on the road.
Right.
And so all those different things, it kind of like makes me sit here and think, well, shoot, man, what's so different about these guys? And obviously, like some of the, guys and girls out there doing it are wildly creative and more so than I in particular areas. But I think it's, kind of for me, it's just finding that difference, or not finding the difference, but finding that niche area that I can get plugged into to kind of, generate my own cash flow to be able to kind of live on the road and continue to explore and adventure.
Yeah.
And really, I think it boils down to the theme of time versus money. I value my time way more than I value money.
Right.
You got people all the time that work, 40, 50, 60 hours a week for 40 years of their life for 2 weeks of paid vacation. The math doesn't add up to me.
Not at all.
I'd rather make 20 grand a year and have 80% more of my time back than the other way around. And, right now, the only thing like remotely holding me to like working some sort of full-time job is my student loans.
Right.
Once those are paid off, like good luck finding me. I'm going to be off doing something that I really have kind of been dreaming of that, maybe I'm getting, pennies on the dollar, but I'm really enjoying what I'm doing and I got my time.
Right.
Time is valuable to me.
Well, and I mean, even seems like the student loans haven't really even stopped you now. So you're obviously about to about to embark on this road trip. We're on this bus, converted this bus. So, how does this desire, this goal, this mission that we're on right now of this road trip, this book, everything that we're about to embark on, how does that work into sort of the contrarian lifestyle and trying to get away from the 9 to 5?
Yeah, for sure. We're trying to kind of expose a little bit more about like our relationship because we've got a pretty personal one for those that don't know out there.
Right.
You and I have been kind of scheming up some world takeover-esque type things.
Yeah. Right.
For the last, few years, almost since the beginning of our relationship back in college. And I don't know, man. Right now I got an opportunity to, link arm in arm with you, go for gold, shoot our shot. You've finished up Zoon Garden, and while you were working on that, I had, originally been working on a few of my own business ideas and then went and worked full time, to work on paying down the student loans. And then this opportunity arose, once you were nearing the finish line. And I was like, dang, dude, I still have student loans, but no way am I missing this tour around the country. Not just for the tour around the country, I've definitely traveled a good bit, but also to be able to just help out a friend. My friends are very near and dear to me, and so I was like, frick, dude, I gotta hop on this thing with Jordan and put all my eggs into this basket. And the other thing is, it's the risk reward potential payout.
Right.
Like there's a potential if this goes well enough, then I can maybe make do by just getting a part-time job where I have all my time back.
Right.
Or maybe I don't at all and we can reinvest, monies into the next project.
The monies, all the monies.
The monies, yeah.
The 3 monies we have. So you're the tour manager of this entire endeavor. So maybe explain a little bit to those who don't know about, like what the heck is happening right now as we speak.
Right.
If anyone's not watching on YouTube, we're sitting on a bus with 2 travel trailers around us on a farm in the middle of nowhere.
Right.
And we're about to embark in 2 to 3 days on 7-week cross-country road trip. So yeah. What exactly is happening and how do you fit in that?
For sure. Yeah. So I'd just like to make a general announcement. The only reason I'm the tour manager is because I was the first one to hop on board. I think there's a couple people out here who have a lot more skill and are probably a lot more organized than myself. I'm the hype man.
Right, for sure. Head promoter, for sure.
Yeah. I will definitely shamelessly yell in the middle of the street, with no shame.
Right.
It's shamelessly yelling. But yeah, man, I mean, like I said, you and I had been kind of working on a few different things. This is the first thing that was kind of coming closer to, being full to fruition for us. And kind of in that, we had already been working on the bus a little bit, hadn't been going full bore until these last few months.
Right.
But, basically, the idea was, you were going to continue writing. I was going to work on student loans. Once I paid those off, boom, then I can put my time and energy into something else if you hadn't finished anything by that point, but you were nearing the end of it. So you said, hey, Jake, we got the school bus that we're planning on using for, later projects, North American and South American road trip tour podcast extravaganza, something along those lines.
Yeah.
And you were like, dude, let's take a kind of a test roadie, which this is way bigger than a test.
Yeah.
Without, and we haven't even studied.
Right.
We're
Right.
just out here.
Right. There wasn't any materials to study. I mean,
The answer is always C.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, this has never happened. I mean,
Right.
it's completely unprecedented. I think, the business strategy that we have is completely created as we speak. I mean, it's,
Yeah.
Authors take book tours, and they'll go like a couple people and just go to a couple random bookstores. But
Right.
we hired, 20 interns and
Right.
got all of these different materials, invested in everything, and we're just ready to rock and do the grassroots approach.
Yeah, 100%. So, I mean, essentially right now my role is right here on the farm is kind of Mr. Fix-It maintenance man.
Right.
Just trying to get everything geared up for the tour itself. We're spending about a week and a half here, just spending some time collecting all the interns, waiting for them to come into town. And then also just getting acquainted with everything. Not everybody is, a super avid camper or outdoorsy person, let alone, small space living, type either. So we're definitely trying to make some adjustments to that whole lifestyle completely outside of the work side of things.
Right.
There's not a whole lot of internships where you're living with your quote unquote bosses.
Right. Or employees.
Or your fellow employees. So it's definitely unique in that aspect alone. But yeah, right now I think I know you've been running around trying to get with all the different teams that we have, marketing team, publicity team, media team, just getting organized really, because once we hit the road here in the next week, there's kind of no looking back. Practice time is over.
Right.
And it's just game time.
It's going to be a sprint.
Yeah, exactly. We won't really have a lot of time to slow down and make adjustments. It's pretty much like, all right, can Alan hold Jordan's legs out the window while he's making adjustment on the bus while I'm barreling down the highway at 55 miles an hour.
Right. Exactly.
So the adjustments will be kind of made on the fly. But yeah, right now, man, I think everybody's just trying to get organized, getting more acquainted with each other on a relational level, and just having a good time while we have a little bit more of a stable living situation. Not necessarily on the road. We can spread out a little bit more, be a little bit more slack, but with the living side of the situation, but very focused and dead set on getting geared up and organized for the actual business side of things here.
Right. So what do you see as some of the biggest challenges and potentially biggest rewards coming up in the next couple of weeks?
For sure. So, I mean, obviously one of the no-brainers is the coronavirus, which
definitely
has been just kind of a lingering question ever since the beginning of the hiring process that you were spearheading there. But nonetheless, I think that we've already put the tour off quite a bit, and I think that the team is well aware and educated in the potential risks that we're taking by taking the tour. But I also think everybody is taking it very seriously as well. So that's just one of the challenges, and really just kind of environmental conditions I would cake that up to be, that we just kind of have to be aware of as we're tearing across the country. I think, man, everybody's doing a great job living together, but even the best of roommates butt heads. So I think over time we're just gonna wear on each other a little bit, which I don't think is necessarily a bad thing. I think we're all gonna emerge a little bit more resilient. And definitely have just learned, from each other, which I think is a beautiful thing in and of itself. We're gonna be able to pack a lot of life experiences into a couple weeks. I think the speed of the trip has had to adjust a little bit just because of our time frame. We were originally looking at closer to a 10-week tour, and really we're looking at on the road for 6. So I think that's a little bit of a challenge. And gosh, dude, I mean, we are taking some of the more difficult things to embark on and smashing them all together.
Right.
Putting together a group of 20 people to organize is difficult. So we have that. Taking a road trip with, a bunch of people that may or may not have solid road trip experience, difficult.
Starting a business in the middle of a pandemic, difficult.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So it's pretty
Writing
much
a
like
book,
we're
challenging.
like, yo, how many challenges can we put together in one and try to overcome them?
Right.
I don't know if I've heard of like a more obscure startup in my life.
Oh, for sure.
I think there's obscure ideas out there and obscure concepts that have done well, but like just the whole culture that we're involved with and responsible for carrying out
Right.
is one of the biggest challenges.
Right.
And I think kind of one of the last ones is man, getting your name out there, getting the buzz going is a hard thing.
Yeah.
It really just requires a lot of hard work, a lot of nose to the grindstone, changing up the approaches, seeing what works, what doesn't, failing quite a bit with just pitching people and that sort of thing. So I think that's just another challenge that we face. I don't think anybody on our team is Instagram famous, has like some wildly crazy,
Right.
famous uncle or anything like that. So that's like just one of the things that we're kind of up against as well. I mean, we're starting
Right.
from scratch. But do I think we have a lot of things in our favor? Absolutely. I think there is a lot of planning that's gone into this. I think I think everybody on the team is serious about their position. I don't see any one or two people kind of like trying to coast this thing.
Yeah, I mean, we have an incredible team. I mean,
I agree.
everybody is the best of the best. I mean, 300 applicants, 80 interviews, and we got the best 20.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, it's gonna be incredible, and I think everybody's taking it very seriously. And I mean, I have high aspirations for it. I think there's a lot of challenges and a lot of things, that we're gonna have to overcome. But the beauty is, it really is something that has literally never been done before.
Right.
I mean, it is so unique in that capacity, and there's so much beauty in that.
Yeah.
So what do you really see, kind of, your message to America as we take this road trip amidst these kind of crazy, divided, polarized times? What's your message to the people? What do you want to see kind of happen in the country?
Yeah, man. Gosh, I over the years, the last 4 or 5 years specifically, once I've like grown on my own a little bit more and that sort of thing, I definitely become a little bit more apolitical, in regards to, where do I stand on everything and, how am I going to invest my time and get involved. I see all over Facebook and everything, everybody's like super gung-ho about their opinions, and everything, which is cool. I would just love to see people being able to take those opinions and having real conversations as opposed to just putting their blast on Facebook or in a
Right.
tweet. I actually really enjoy having political discussions, but I'm not about to put my thoughts out there on Facebook for some kid I went to high school but never talked with to put me on blast. But yeah, ultimately, I'm super excited for the tour. I'm super excited for people to read the book. I'm curious to hear what everybody has to say about it. Well, most people. I don't know if I'll be psyched on everybody's opinions on it, but
Yeah.
that's my own personal opinion,
Yeah. It's going to be one heck of an adventure for sure.
Yeah. No, but I'm excited, man. I'm excited to, promote something that I believe in, be a part of something epic, and, ultimately support you.
Yeah.
My brother.
Heck yeah, brother.
Yeah.
All right, Jake Harris. Thanks for coming on the podcast.
Yeah, thank you, Jordan. Caveman out.
Peace. Jake Harris, ladies and gentlemen.